Thank you. Without further ado, I think you know the next guy. He happens to be our senator, the only one that matters. We somehow got another one, you know, in there. But Senator Dean Heller, I'm not going to go through all the things that he's done. And treat him nicely. He smiled at the end of the day yesterday. Dean Heller.
Great, thank you. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and what a pleasure it is to be here. And I'm surprised I don't see any protesters in here. But we've had a few of them. We've had a few of them recently. You know, Harry Reid used to say it wasn't an event unless there was a protester there. So I'm understanding now what he has gone through over the years. But needless to say, it's great to be here. It's great to spend a few minutes with you. What I want to do is just give you a real brief overview of what's going on in the United States Senate, and then we'll open it up for questions because I'm sure that most of you have a question or two that you'd like to ask. So having said that, the good news is this. We have a new Supreme Court Justice. Very highly qualified justice out of the state of Colorado. And that's good for Nevada. Let me assure you, he's the only justice west of the Mississippi. So it's great to have a Westerner now on the Supreme Court justice that understand the issues that we have to deal with on a daily basis here on the western side of the country, including water, public lands, and some of those issues that we have to deal with all the time. So I was glad to see Gorsuch on the courts. I was eager to support him. Highly qualified, did a great job. It's interesting that the other side decided last minute to filibuster this particular nominee when he was at the appellate court 10 years ago. Most of the Democratic senators supported him for the appellate court, but it was unfortunate that they decided he wasn't worthy of the Supreme Court, and it was a shame. I couldn't think of a more highly qualified person. I think any Republican that ran last cycle would have nominated Neil Gorsuch under any circumstances. He was that good of a candidate, so that's the good news. The disappointing news, of course, is we saw a little collapse on the repeal and replace of Obamacare, and that's an ongoing saga. I would have chosen, if I was asked how to do this a little bit differently, I probably would have started with tax reform and infrastructure, probably two issues that both sides could have come together on and actually solved that problem. And then after we had some bipartisan agreements and moved legislation like that, then go to the tougher issues like health care. But our leadership's made certain decisions. The White House made certain decisions, and I'll go along with it, and hopefully we can get some good things done here by the end of the year. So I'm constantly asked, as you're talking about tax reform here today, when is that going to happen? It was the goal of the administration to have healthcare reform done before we went on this particular Easter holiday recess. And then after we did that, then we'd go into tax reform. Immediately coming back on Monday, we'd work on tax reform and have it done by August. Well, with this little blip in the process here, we probably now won't have tax reform done by August, but I will argue this, is that it does have to be done by the end of the year. And if there is a timeline now out of the White House, they want to see good tax reform done. And the bottom line is this, and this is their argument. The argument is this, is that at 35% corporate tax rate, this country is no longer competitive. You can't have the highest corporate tax rates in the world and be competitive. And that's what the White House wants to change. I've had his budget director in my office. I've had the Treasury Secretary in the office. I've had his economic advisors in my office, and they talk about two words that are most important to them, and that's economic growth. They want economic growth. We have not seen economic growth in this country in 10 years. If you take a look at the last 50 years, the lowest growth in those 50 years are the last 10 years, and they want to change that. I remember asking Mnuchin, what are you going to do about the $20 trillion in debt? 20 trillion, you know what he said to me? He says, we're not going to do anything. There's nothing you can do about $20 trillion in debt. You can't raise enough taxes. You can't cut enough out of the budget. There isn't anything you can do unless you have economic growth. So when I talk to their economic advisors, when I talk to the Treasury Secretary, they're saying we can't have this anemic 1% growth like we've seen on average over the last 10 years. This has to go to 3, 4, 5%. And if you do that, you're going to see some jobs created. People will have work. You'll see revenues go up in the federal treasury, and we'll be able to start chopping back at this debt that we're seeing today. So that's, to me, the good news. As I talk to this administration, they're talking about moving this country forward. What they want is economic growth, and that's what they want out of tax reform before the end of the year. Clearly, they want to cut the corporate tax rate. They want to get this 35% down to somewhere between 15 to 20%. They want individual tax rates to go down. They want small business tax rates to go down. They realize that if you have more money in your pocket, you're going to spend more, but the ability to do so obviously allows these small businesses to continue to grow and continue to hire individuals. So that's what we're working on over there. There's a lot going on. And the key is this. We have 1,400 people that the White House has to send to the United States Senate for confirmation. 1,400. So far, I think they've sent us about 35. We have a long way to go. This guy may be president for 10 years by the time we get through all this confirmation process. But needless to say, we need to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. We needed to get Gorsuch onto the Supreme Court. We need tax reform. We need banking reform. We need to change the way we budget here in this country. And taking a look at the president's budget, the budget coming out of Ways and Means, budget coming out of the Appropriations Committee on the finance side, it's going to be a very, very interesting process as we move forward. So I look forward to it. This is a new era. And I just want you to keep one thing in mind. Over the last 100 years in Washington, D.C., there's only been 12 times that the same party has controlled both houses of the legislature and the White House. Only 12 times. And only 4 of those times has it been Republican. So the chances are the next time it happens, it's going to be the other party and not the Republican Party. We have 1/3 chance or 1/3 opportunity. What that tells me, and frankly, we're hearing it in Washington, D.C., and we're hearing it from a lot of you, we got to get things done. Here's an opportunity, a real good opportunity for some real conservative and positive movements forward so that we can move this society forward, America forward, and help this White House in getting some of their priorities done. So anyway, I look forward to being part of it. I look forward to helping and supporting this White House as they move forward. As you know, I do get criticized for supporting all of his nominees at this point, but I think every president has a right to put together his own cabinet. Clinton certainly had that opportunity. Obama had that opportunity. I think Trump should also have the opportunity of putting his own cabinet together. And I'll continue to support them as they move forward and trying to put this government together and trying to get it on the right track. So I want to open it up for questions. I know that you probably want to ask questions more than you want to hear me speak, but Ray, are you in charge?
One at a time. Remember, questions, not commentary.
All right, Jerry.
Yes, I'm glad you remember me. Well, I know, but
but I'm good at reading. You know that much, right?
Oh, well, I spoke to you at Corley Ranch last summer. So my question is, will you strongly encourage Jeff Sessions to enforce the federal law concerning recreational marijuana?
You know, Jeff Sessions and I have had numerous conversations about this. One of the nice things about the United States Senate is there's a few of us that get up every morning. I get up at 5 o'clock every morning when I'm in D.C. and run over to the Senate gym and work out before I start my day. And Sessions used to do the same thing. So I specifically asked this question and asked him, what are you going to do? What are you going to do about the states like California, like Nevada, like Colorado, like the state of Washington that have passed ballot questions? And the conflict that he tells me that he has himself is that, you know, you've got states' rights, you've got the 10th Amendment, and yet you also have conflicts with federal law. This is what he has told me, just so that you know what Jeff Sessions told me. He does not anticipate He does not anticipate that he's going to spend a lot of time and energy on this particular issue because he has more important things to do. Not that it's not important to him. He's not that it's not important to him, but he can't imagine using his agents to go after 3 ounces of marijuana and using up their time and energy for that when they have so many other things that they have to deal with. So it's not like it's lost on him. And let me assure you, he's a pretty solid individual, and I supported him as the Attorney General here for this country. But I've raised the questions, wanted to know how he feels about these issues, and that was the answer that I received.
Question up front first.
This is Mo Bashir Ahmed. I'm the Secretary of the Republican Men's Club, and I have 2 questions. First is starting with the law. The First Amendment, although it's very good to protect our freedom of speech, it has been abused by the press. And there's really nothing you can do because let's say, for example, if there is an untruth published and the statute of limitations expired, guess what? It'll be published again and again. So what is Congress going to be doing about something like this, about reforming First Amendment rights so that our dear American citizens, such as like me, are not persecuted and judged by the press, and we have no recourse? And my second real quick question is this. President Xi came to meet President Trump, and we were expecting big things there, and we didn't see anything. One of the things that was pointed out that the press didn't really say anything is that 40% of the deficit between the US and China is because of American companies. What do you think about that?
All right. Those are some interesting questions. If you're asking me whether or not I support the First Amendment, the answer is yes. All right, I support the First Amendment. And frankly, I think the courts treat the First Amendment different than they do the Second Amendment. In fact, the courts have been very, very specific about telling groups and organizations what they can and can't do when it comes to getting together, gathering and protesting and those kind of issues. And yet they're very wishy-washy, the courts are, and providing bureaucrats the opportunity to make restrictive changes on the Second Amendment, which is very frustrating for me because I think the Second Amendment should be just as important as the First Amendment to the courts. And unfortunately, under certain circumstances, I just don't see that. Needless to say, I will support the First Amendment. I understand the frustration that you have and the frustration that probably most of you have here in this room. In fact, as you know, I had a town hall meeting yesterday, and it was rough for the first 15 minutes and everybody had to get it out of their system. But after the first 15 minutes, the next hour and 45 minutes was just fine. We had a great dialogue with 500 to 600 people in the room. First 15 minutes, they shouted and they got their feelings expressed and all that. But needless to say, the next hour and 45 minutes went just fine. But you wouldn't know that reading the papers. Or listening to the television yesterday. In fact, my argument to them was this: they already wrote the article before the event even happened. Article was already written. In fact, I said that to the Reno Gazette-Journal. Why are you interviewing me? You've already written the article, and this was before the event. Because they'd already written it and they wanted to make sure that they had their message out there, which obviously wasn't going to be very positive. Needless to say, I thought yesterday went just fine. And that was a very, very good example of what the First Amendment is all about. And that is a dialogue between people who disagree, and we can agree to disagree. Problem that I think this gentleman may have to some degree is that there's a lot that's being said and done out there that frankly puts people in a very negative light. And I'm saying that we have Republicans that put people in a very negative light. We have Democrats that put people in a very negative light. I just want to remember one thing, and I was wrong on this myself. What I said during this last campaign was I'm not going to worry too much about the tweets, and I'm not going to worry too much about what things are said. What I'm going to do is concentrate on policy. My job back in Washington, D.C. is to concentrate on policy. And you know what? I think I was wrong to a degree, because tweets can hurt and things that are said can hurt. And I'm seeing some real frustrations in schools, both in northern and southern Nevada, and things, the way people are being treated. I don't like what I am seeing out there. But this is all part of the First Amendment. I'll continue to protect the First Amendment. I do believe that we have to be very, very careful with our dialogue with our fellow citizens. And regardless of your nationality, your background, your gender, whatever the case may be, your religion, even your personal lifestyle, we have to be very, very careful the way we talk and treat other people. This is America, and this is a great place to live, and we should allow others to live as they may.
I'm Robert Jorgensen. Dean, by the way, thanks for being here after your spirited town hall
It's fine. It's
session.
fine.
You haven't lost your voice, which is good. My question is this. I'm not in these states where N for Nancy Pelosi and C for Chuck Schumer and E for Elizabeth Warren, but NCE, it's like, to me, as an American, I see a real no code of ethics being run by the Democratic Party and almost everything that this administration is trying to advance. And I'm just wondering, as a Republican senator, do you feel that this is the way it's going to go for the next, 3.5 years with this administration? They're just going to try and block anything and everything, even if it's good for their country and good for the state.
Yeah. You ask a pretty good question. And I hate to say this, but I've been in elected office now for more than 25 years. And it makes me feel very old as I stand in front of you and talk to you about these particular issues. But I will tell you, things have changed. Things have changed when I first came into office to where things are today. And what this gentleman's talking about is moral outrage. Moral outrage. And here's what I'm concerned about, is moral outrage now has become more to do with what your political affiliation is than it is what's right and wrong. You're morally outraged against a Republican president. You're morally outraged against a Democratic president instead of what is right and what is wrong. And that's where I think our society is kind of moving. And you're seeing it, a lot of it on television. Children are seeing a lot of this on television. And it is disappointing for me to see what's going on in Washington, D.C. And I think you're exactly right, is that we've decided that I think Mitch McConnell was wrong when he said he wanted Obama to become a one-term president. He didn't have to say that. He could have worked that way, but he didn't have to say that. And I think that put a cloud over the process over the next 8 years. Now we have Democrats, and no matter what move this president's going to make, they're going to filibuster it. Period. Even under the situation with Gorsuch, most of those Democrats supported Gorsuch at the appellate level. And yet, to keep their base happy, they decided to filibuster this nominee, a highly qualified nominee for the United States Supreme Court. And I think we're going to see that for the next 3.5 years. I think you're exactly right. This is why you're seeing some of the changes. For example, in healthcare, that we're doing it through maneuvering of the process. And I don't want to sit here and talk about process, but some votes take 60 votes and some take 51 votes. And we're moving as much as we possibly can. You saw that we had the nuclear option on the Supreme Court. We had to go there in order for Gorsuch to get on there. But I will tell you that movement of the Republicans going with the nuclear option had to happen. It was going to happen because of what happened in 2013 under the Democrats. When they went the nuclear option, it just became the next step. I hated both occasions. I think both times that you had to use the nuclear option was proof that we're failing back in Washington, D.C. to work together. Republicans and Democrats, and I saw a statistic recently. Do you know that 85% of America want Republicans and Democrats to work together for the betterment of this country? And I'll bet you everybody in here probably agrees with that. But you know what's even more interesting in the statistics is that nobody votes that way anymore. No one votes that way anymore. So we take the far left, the far right, and they wonder why we can't get along and why we can't work together. And that's what really needs to change. It starts with this room. It starts with the citizens about putting people back in Washington, D.C. that can work together and can solve problems. And today, I don't know if Ronald Reagan could get elected. I don't know if he could, because you know what his famous comment was? If I get 80% of what I want, I'm happy. I'll support it, and I'll come back later and try to get the other 20%. You see that today on the campaign trail, you're out. We want 100%, black and white. And that's not the way it works back in Washington, D.C. So guys like myself who do work with both sides, talk to them about issues. I'm one who doesn't think that it matters if the ideas are, whether a good ideas comes from Republicans or Democrats. If they're good ideas, I'm going to support them. If they're not, I'm not going to support it, or I'll try to at least change it and make it something that is worthy of everybody here in this room to also support. So anyway, yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of this over the next period of time, but at some point, there's going to be a rejection by the general public of this kind of style and quality as we move forward in this Congress. Back here.
Good afternoon, Senator.
Hello.
I said good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
Welcome home to Northern
Great
Nevada.
to be home. Great to be home.
It's nice to see that your responses are getting about as lengthy as Amadeus.
Oh, I apologize. I apologize.
This morning on Fox News, or on Fox Business, the question was tax reform. And they're saying that it probably won't happen. And it certainly won't happen if all the employees of us taxpayers cross over the river and then take their summer vacation. So they were suggesting, or Stuart Varney was suggesting, that when you folks go back to your country club, that you ask your leaders, and they're not ours, you people selected Mr. McConnell and Mr. Ryan. So would you please tell them that you need to go to work and pass tax reform? Thank you.
I'll keep this as short as possible. Thank you. Well noted.
Senator Heller, thanks for talking to us, Senator. You've said, or just recently said, that there's no way that Yucca Mountain will happen, but there are some people who are pushing for it. I'm not sure who they are, and there must be some probability that they'll succeed.
Okay. Yucca Mountain. The question was Yucca Mountain. I've made the comment that Yucca Mountain is dead. I gave a speech yesterday in front of the Nevada legislature and said, I'm the guy. The only way to keep Yucca Mountain out of the state of Nevada is through me. In the majority party, with working with our leadership. As you know, the administration has put $120 million in their budget to revive Yucca Mountain. You want to know why? Do you want to know why there's $120 million in this president's budget? And the reason is this, is that his budget director is from South Carolina, Mick Mulvaney. And you know what? Mick Mulvaney has, in his district, in his old congressional district, they have nuclear power plants. And they're stockpiling that waste in these nuclear power plants. And Mick Mulvaney wants to get rid of it. But you know what? Mick Mulvaney doesn't want to bury it. He doesn't want to bury it in South Carolina. He wants to bring it all the way across the country and put it in your backyard. That's what Mick Mulvaney wants to do. And I'm opposed to it. I've told him I'm opposed to it. I told Secretary Perry when he was in my office, I'm opposed to it. The governor told him he's opposed to it. Secretary Perry came out to Yucca Mountain last month, called me up to let me know that he was coming. I reiterated my position on Yucca Mountain, that we're not going to accept it. Do you know there's 2 other states that want it? Do you know there's 2 other states that want this waste? Texas and New Mexico. They've been asking for it. And yet they still want to pour it here into the state of Nevada with no signal of consent from this state. There's something wrong with this process when they think they can take advantage of a state like Nevada, an individual like Mick Mulvaney, just because he produces the waste. He produces the waste, doesn't want to take care of it himself, wants to force it down the throats of somebody else. That's why there's $120 million in that budget, because Mick Mulvaney is from South Carolina and he doesn't know what to do with his own waste.
Senator Heller, I know you know who I am, but it's fine. My question is, would you consider taking a contingent of Nevada stakeholders, VIP casino owners and things like that, up to the Idaho National Laboratory for a VIP tour of advanced nuclear technology?
I will always have this discussion. And I want to talk more about the technologies that are available as opposed to just shoving this stuff into the ground with a half-life of 100 million years. Do you know in other countries, they recycle their nuclear waste? They recycle it. Why aren't we recycling nuclear waste here in this country? France can do it. Why can't the United States do this? And yet we sit here trying to shove it into the ground. It makes no sense. No sense. And by the way, I support nuclear energy. Don't get me wrong. I support nuclear energy and think it should be part of our energy portfolio. But let's be smart about this. Let's be smart about this. And there's ways to handle this waste. In fact, reuse this waste. And so I have no problem to have that discussion as we move forward.
Senator, I'm Tom Heck. I have two questions for you. The first question is, legislatures like to tax businesses because they don't get very many complaints. But the real truth of the issue is that businesses don't pay taxes, only people do. Will you start telling your compadres back there in Washington that story? Because everybody talks about taxing businesses. The second question is healthcare. There's only four pieces to healthcare. That's the people that have normal policies, the people that have pre-existing conditions, the people that can't afford it, and crossing state lines. The problem, if we all agree that the auto industry does very fine with their insurance. The problem is government's involved in healthcare insurance. Will you start getting the government out and just focus on repealing Obamacare and then focus on the ones that have pre-existing conditions and have cannot pay it, and get out of the pieces that we do?
I'm pleased. I'm pleased that you support helping those with pre-existing condition. Let's keep this in mind. Keep this in mind. We have 200,000 Nevadans that now have health care that otherwise didn't. Most of those 200,000 are children. Those 200,000 are children. I don't have a problem with Medicaid expansion. What I do want, though, is a robust private system here in this country that provides the health care that businesses, both medium, small, and large, can afford. I want more competition, higher quality at less costs. That means going over state lines. I'm a big believer that if you can buy car insurance from some lizard in Connecticut, you should be able to get your health care in Connecticut also, if that's the most competitive place to do it. Let me tell you what the problem with health care is, just so that everybody understands it. Here's a piece of paper. Let's say that this is the legislation for health care, okay? Democrats have said, what do you want to fix? What do you want to change? We know it's broken. We do know that there are changes. Republicans say, get rid of it. And the Democrats say, no. Here's the health care bill. This is what we have today. What do you want to fix? We'll work together. What do you want to fix? And the Republicans say, no, we just want to repeal it. Now, it's hard to get the other side to work with us when our absolute position is this has to go away. This has to go away. You're not going to get the support that we need from the other side. They want to make changes. In fact, there's only 2 legislators in Congress out of 535 that have actually changed the Obamacare bill in the last 7 years. That's me and a gentleman, senator by the name of Martin Heinrich, a Democrat from New Mexico. By the way, Martin Heinrich was born in Fallon. He was born in Fallon. He's now a United States Senator in New Mexico. Martin's a great guy. He and I worked together to repeal or to postpone the Cadillac tax. This is the 40% excise tax every business and every individual would have to pay for their health care. The reason they want a 40% excise tax is to move everybody over to an exchange. They don't want private health care out there. And I completely disagree with that, and I tried to eliminate. We postponed it from 2018 to 2020, and eventually we will repeal this 40% tax on all health care. By the way, it would have affected 1.3 million Nevadans on their health care. Each of them would have had to pay 40% tax. So things can be fixed. We have to work together. But if the answer is this has to go away, instead of coming to the table and saying, okay, let's fix this. Let's figure out what we can do. There's some good things in Obamacare, and there's some horrendous things in Obamacare. We can fix this thing, but we have to be willing to work together in order for that to happen. Right now, that's not happening. Who's got the mic? Who's got the mic?
I think I was next. Hi. Senator Heller, my name is Carol Feinberg, and I write you all the time, and you always write me back, but I'm pretty sure a staffer writes it, you just sign your name.
Nope. If it's an original letter, I see it.
All right.
Just so you know, if it's an original letter, if it's the, 4,000.
It's often on your contact form in an email form. So,
Okay.
One a comment and second a question. The first comment is you talked about moral outrage. I think it is immoral outrage because none of what they're outraged about is moral. That's comment one. And I hope you'll reconsider your comment on moral outrage. It's immoral. Secondly, would you reconsider your position on Yucca Mountain if it were to reprocess the spent fuel rods as opposed to just storing them? Because that's what we're talking about in this state, and many grassroots citizens are very much in favor of this. You haven't talked to us.
Well, and I'm more than happy to have the discussion if it's an advancement of technology. I'm not willing to have the discussion if it's just about burying it in the ground. If it's just about burying it in the ground, you're not going to have my support. If you want to talk to me about technology advancements and the proper and correct way in order to reprocess, to conserve these spent fuels, let's talk about that. But I am not willing to talk about burying it in the side of some mountain and having all these spent fuel rods sent from one side of the country by train or truck or whatever the case, from one side of the country to the other. It simply doesn't make any sense. So yeah, I'll expand the conversation, but I want to talk about the opportunities and the technologies and broaden the conversation. The conversation is not broad in Washington, D.C. There's only one solution in Washington, D.C. And they've been doing this, working on this same solution for 30 years. Maybe 40 years, and that is to put it in the side of a mountain, and it simply doesn't make sense.
Senator?
Yes.
Since Nevada is a target by the Democrats big time, already have a candidate running flat out against you, and lots of money is going to come into the state of Nevada for the Democrats. What do the wimpy Washington Republicans have planned for you?
Well, I will tell you this. I am the #1 target. Make no mistake. I am the #1 target in the country for Republicans. And there's only one reason, and that was because Clinton won this state. This is a state that Clinton won, and they're saying, okay, if Clinton could win it, then we should be able to replace this Senate seat. And that's their argument. I would argue this. Last time I ran, Romney was on the ballot with me, and I ran 10 points in front of Romney. 10 points. And I had to. Keep in mind, Romney lost Nevada by 7 points. And by the way, Romney was a great candidate. I wish Romney had been president of the United States.
Sorry.
But he lost Nevada by 7 points, and I won by 1.5 points. That's how far I had to run ahead. Now, Trump lost Nevada by 2.5 points. Joe Heck lost Nevada by 2.5 points, and I have to do better than that, and I think I can. And I do believe that I'm going to win this thing. I am going to win, but it is not going to be easy. They're going to take everything that they have, and they're going to throw it at us. You know what? I am the only Republican. I am the only Republican in Nevada that can retain this seat. Only one, and I will. But it'll be from sheer hard work and effort in order to get there. By the way, I like that USC shirt. Fight on. Fight on.
Okay, here we go. Let's get back to taxes. What Tom had to say, first of all, you missed the first part of the presentation. $25 million went into the fair tax from some of the brightest people in the country who did the research on it over several years. It is a very, very good bill, and it's very good for the country, but it's going to take a bold move. Tom said, why are we taxing businesses? Because it's us that end up paying for it. Businesses are just a pass-through. They don't pay taxes. Everybody knows that. So why are we going on with that charade? But my question for you is, are you going to be at least bold enough to sit down with us fair taxers and learn about the bill? And then if you like it, co-sponsor it and help us get it passed.
And I'm happy to do that. But let me ask everybody a question first. How many in here support a border tax? How many support a border tax? Border tax. That is the 20% excise tax for all products coming into the country and no taxes going out. In other words, there are 63 nations in this world, in this world that tax you when you bring your product in. So for example, if we want to do business with China, we pay an excise tax for our product to come in there, but we do not charge an excise tax for them to bring their product here. And this is something that the Trump administration has been arguing. And that's why I want to know here, how many people support a border tax, a 20% border tax? Okay. Because it raises a lot of money. It does raise a lot of money. And they believe that the only way that you can have fundamental tax reform here in this country is that you need a new revenue source. But keep this in mind. We would be the only country in the nation that had a border tax and an income tax. So what they're saying is there will be a VAT tax and there will be a personal income tax. Only country that has both taxes. And if you have a border tax, your products will get more expensive. I mean, I have had every retail business come into my office. In fact, Nike was in my office recently. Here was a statistic that they told me, and stop and think about that for everybody here in this room. 99% of all footwear bought in this country is made from outside the country. 99%. So the chances are 1% of you may have a pair of shoes. Of course, I was wearing boots at the time made in Oklahoma, so I was outside that. They say they do not make boots with a swoosh on them. So I didn't get that. But needless to say, there'd be a 20% tax on all those shoes coming in. Now, there'd probably be some dollar adjustment to it, but the fact is that everything you purchase retail would probably go up somewhere between 10 to 15%. Does everybody support? Who supports a border tax here in this room?
Too broad a question, Mr. Hall. I don't have a mic, but I would like to say, you raised 20%. As part of a comprehensive tax reform, I believe that there is a place for considering a border tax. It might be reciprocal. Thank you.
Force people to buy America.
No, I get it. This is part of the discussion that's going back in Washington, D.C. right now. Should we increase and have a border tax? And I think this is a great discussion. I think it is a discussion that we should be having today, because the issue of it is America first. America first. And today that's quite popular. It's quite popular. Question is 6 months from now or a year from now, when you have a border tax and everything goes up 10, 15%, are you going to be just as enthusiastic about it? And that's some of the discussions and we're going to have in Washington, D.C. over the next 6 to 9 months. I just wanted to get the feel in the room. Just wanted to get the feel in the room, and that's what I'm supposed to do here. So thank you very much for participating.
Hey, Senator Dave Souza, 2 questions. You've always stood up there and said no budget, no pay.
Correct.
When is that going to go through?
Well, we've had portions of it go through, which is unfortunate. I want not only the budget. Now, keep in mind, everybody here in this room understands what we're talking about. If you don't do your job, you shouldn't be paid, correct? Should be paid. And the most important thing that we do here in Washington, D.C. is we pass the budget. We fund the federal government. And I believe that budget should be passed every year. Now, we didn't get that, of course, under the Obama administration, but I'm hoping the Republicans will be a little bit different. But it doesn't just deal with the budget itself. I want all 12 appropriations passed also. All 12 of them. Hang on a second. Let me finish this. I'm sorry I'm talking as long as Amity is. But needless to say, what they did is they said, okay, no budget, no pay. We'll pass a budget, but we won't pass the appropriations. And they claimed they did what they wanted. I said, no, that's not the way it works. So I guarantee you that my no budget, no pay will be on the appropriation budget process this year.
The second thing I have is the House Veterans Affairs Committee Chairman, Phil Rowe, on Wednesday is going to propose a bill that requires the GI Bill to ask for the $1,200 they've had before the 9/11. Us and veterans organizations have fought for the GI Bill that we have today and the benefits that we have, and we understand TRICARE is going to get a revision, which is going to cost us money, and now they're going to tell the GI Bill, the the soldiers and the sailors and airmen that are out there, you have to put $1,200 to use the GI Bill again. We don't agree with that as a veterans organization, and we just hope that you can help
I don't
support
agree
that.
with it either. And I sit on the Veterans Committee. I guarantee you the chairman, Johnny Isaacson, would probably have a few thoughts on that also, but I cannot imagine something like that getting through the United States Senate. Here you go, Don.
Don's going to be long.
That's not fair. That's
I
not
feel
fair.
like you.
There we go.
You are our senator. You are also now a senior senator, so you carry a lot of worth. We are very concerned. When I say we, I'm speaking of mostly this group who are conservative. We are concerned with your possibility of not winning. Even though you are sure you are, so is Joe Heck. And we lost a senator in Joe Heck because
He's a great candidate, too.
because he would not endorse Trump. Now, that's okay if, you know, if you've got a reason, that's fine. If you or Heck don't want to vote for him, that's fine. But for God's sakes, keep your mouth shut when it comes to supporting Trump. Now, I was asked recently, what do I think you would have to do to assure that margin shrinks, or that you take an overwhelming lead, which is what we really need. And I thought that if you came out in support of Trump, now you don't have to love the man, and very many of us do not care for what he has said, but we know he is the way we can get things done. And you are in that same position. Can you publicly support Trump now?
Well, I'm in the sweet spot, it sounds like here. As I move forward, here is my guiding policy. You may like it, you may not like it, but this is my guiding policy. If Trump's right, I'll support him. I've supported all of his nominees. Supported all of his nominees of this. And yesterday I was at the town hall meeting and they were shredding me because I was supporting all of his nominees. But I'm supporting it because I think Trump is right, putting his cabinet together. I will support him. But if I think Trump is wrong, I'll try to change his mind. And that's what I do. That's my responsibility. I don't think it matters, and it may to some of you, what happened in the last election, but I will tell you this about Joe Heck. Joe Heck was an incredible candidate. Incredible candidate. I do think the only candidates that changed their positions on Trump mainstream was Kelly Ayotte and Joe Heck. And because they were for him and then against him and then for him and then against him, you couldn't bounce back and forth. You either stuck with them through thick and thin, and it was tough to do, or you took a pass. And I personally took a pass on this particular election. But I don't think you could have gone back and forth. With them, stay with them. Not with them, stay right where you are and go forward. We had a number of candidates. Portman in Ohio, Toomey in Pennsylvania. They all took a pass. They all took a pass, but they stayed on the straight and narrow when it came to that. Kept their mouth shut, like you said, kept their mouth shut, but felt that they couldn't support him under the circumstances. And they all won. They all won. So that's how I feel. Just so you know, that's how I feel. And I will support Trump when he's right. I supported Obama when he was right. Voted against him when I thought he was wrong. Voted against him when I thought he was wrong. I supported Bush. I supported Bush when I thought he was right. Voted against him when I thought he was wrong, when it wasn't good for Nevada. So I'll continue to do that. All right.
Oh, excuse me. Okay, this is kind of going back to this subject you were on a minute ago. In 2012, I was at CPAC when they shoved Jeb Bush, and I thought, why is he the main speaker? So he was a hand-picked guy. In June of 2016, you came out along with Amadei saying that you were for Jeb Bush as president. There hadn't even been any of these talk things going on to speak of. Then Orrin Hatch get onto it, and establishment people, and I believe that you're one of the establishment people, sorry. And I see establishment as Clintons and Bushes, as all of those who are totally against Trump. You never came out for Trump. You never ever supported anything, yet look at this one. Okay, the question is, you complain that you cannot get the Democrats to work with the Republicans. I want to know, can you get your establishment people to work with the Trump people?
And frankly, and I think my voting record has been very clear, I have supported this administration up to this point. As long as I think they're right and it's good for Nevada, I'll continue to support them. But I think that's fair. I think it's fair for everybody here in this room for me to say when it's not good for Nevada. Doesn't matter if it's a Republican or a Democrat. If it's not good for Nevada, I won't support it. Most important thing I'll do is try to change their minds. Try to change their minds. So we don't have to relitigate what happened during the last election cycle. This is all about going forward. This is all about going forward and making sure that this country stays on a pathway to creating jobs and, frankly, people keeping the health care. If President Trump can create jobs, and keep people in their health care, this man's going to be reelected. Those are the two things that he has to do. And I'm going to support that process. If that's the goals and it's a legitimate decision to move in that direction, that's what I'm going to do. But if we vary in areas that's not good for the state of Nevada, I'm just telling you, I'm telling you, as your senior senator, I will support what's best for the state of Nevada.
Senator, just have a very simple question. I think you'll like it.
Okay.
But it's premised on the fact that we are a constitutional republic. That means that we, the people, are the sovereign, and we elect representatives to represent us based on the Constitution. Okay, that being understood, if you could go, and we understand that we have a multitude of big problems right now in the United States of America, and we would like to see the United States of America continue. If you could pick any one of those big problems that we would like to see solved that would help us drain the swamp, what would you try to solve in the here and now, right now?
It's all about the economy and all about jobs. That's what this is all about moving forward, is making sure we can solve problems in society if everybody has a job. If everybody has a job. If we have economic growth, we can solve society's problems. And that's what the goal is. The goal is to go down that road and make sure that we have a tax function, a tax process that we know is going to develop economic growth. And if we have economic growth, we move forward. That's the key. That's the key. That's what I'll continue to fight for. Let me just tell you three things, real short, what I think is important for myself back in Washington, D.C. First question I ask myself on every piece of legislation, number one, is it constitutional? Is it constitutional? Number two, is it a good idea? To be constitutional, but doesn't necessarily mean it's a good idea. Number one, is it constitutional? Number two, is it a good idea? And finally, third, can you afford it? Can you afford it? Could be a good idea, could be constitutional, but we may not be able to afford it. Those are the three questions that I ask when any piece of legislation comes in front of my desk.
All right. Thank you, Senator. My name is Eric Sheets. I'm an at-large member with the Executive Committee. First off, you've been going through hell the last couple of days, and thank you for doing that for us, having conversations, all that, being here. And I understand it's like being in the middle of a two-lane road and you're getting smacked from both sides. So anyway, but with that being said,
That's very well said.
we got election coming up here with the Republican Party in Washoe County. And as Don mentioned earlier, basically what's coming up on this next election is critical. So what's the best way that we can help you? And can you come participate with us as well? Because we want to make sure Washoe wins so that we can win this state.
Thank you. Thank you. The key to my reelection is going to be Washoe County. Don't get me wrong. It's going to be Washoe County. Washoe County is going to determine whether or not I remain as your senior senator. So thanks for asking the question. Let me tell you the key. Let me tell you the key statewide in this state. For every constitutional officer that's going to be up this time, and for every statewide office, whether it's the Supreme Court and for that matter, the United States Senate. Here's the key. It's very, very simple. It's a very simple equation. If Democrats right now have over 100,000 more voter registration than Republicans do. If Democrats have more than 100,000, and right now they got 106,000 statewide, voter registration edge, as long as it's over 100,000, they win. As long as it's over 100,000, they win. Now, if we can reduce it, if it can be reduced to 50,000 or less, 50,000 or less, we win. Republicans win. Republicans win. Okay? So if it's between 50 and 100, then it's a race. But if we want to guarantee it here in Washoe County, if we want to guarantee in Clark County, if we want to guarantee statewide, the goal is to get that number below 50,000. Right now it's at 106. Guess what I'm going to be doing for the next 18 months? Next 18 months is voter registration. And that's what the party needs to be doing. The party has two responsibilities.
Hold on.
Party has two responsibilities. One, register voters, and two, get out the vote. That's their responsibility. If every county and the state did those two things, and only those two things, as your United States Senator, I'd be thrilled. I'd be thrilled because that's what we need to do. Keep in mind, 4 years ago, we took over both legislature and won all 6 of the constitutional offices. You know why we did that? Because we got the voter registration below 50,000, below 50,000, and we won. If it's over 100,000, can't win, can't win. That's the goal.
Next question. By the way, I forgot to mention Elizabeth Purdy is on she's a hell of a lot prettier than most of us, but she's on the Miss America pageant, and she has a question for you. And I forgot to mention, also Marion Bond was just elected campaign manager for the Nevada Women's Federation.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I am Elizabeth Purdy.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Senator Heller. I'm a senior, Ms. Senior representative of the Western United States. And my question is that you began your introduction to us about what a rare time this is right now and how rare it has been for Republicans to have a majority as far as a president, a House, and a Senate. And yet we are constantly hearing and feeling, just like what was said a moment ago, of establishment Republicans versus those elected by the people. And I think the message came loud and clear that the conservative Republicans are for Trump and what he's representing for us. And yet we are hearing constantly about the heels being put in, on our Republican Party against things that Trump would like to forward. So my first question is about that, about why. Why are we seeing the Republicans fighting against Republicans in Washington? And then my second question is, again, you say you are our Nevada representative. And my question is, you say, so you don't support Yucca. And I just want, and I can appreciate that with the knowledge that you have. But I would, just like Gary was encouraging you to please get some more education because the people of the area are supporting it. That means they have done, Nye County, they have done a lot of research themselves when it's affecting their own families and children. And absolutely, we are looking at this for Nevada as a recycling, not just a repository, but for reprocessing, which could mean billions. France right now is the largest exporter of electricity due to it being over 75% nuclear energy. So again, would you please reconsider investigating this as also not only a repository, but a reprocessing? We have over 30 plants in the United States, 4 in process of nuclear plants in the United States. That means we as Nevada, we should be thankful that they keep coming back to Nevada because we get chance after chance to make good money for this state that could solve a lot of our education problems, et cetera. Please, would you consider studying the Yucca Mountain thing more? Northern Nevada is really for it. Thank you.
If the goal is to bury it in the mountain, which is the only goal, that is the only goal being discussed in Washington, D.C. There's no alternatives. There are no alternatives.
Thank you.
Correct. But I'm telling you, that's the alternative. That's the only alternative in Washington, D.C. I've been talking about reprocessing. I've been talking about keeping it on their sites and letting them reprocess their own nuclear waste and using it within that, on that same site. That has been the discussion. And Republicans and Democrats statewide in this state for 30 years has been talking about this. And it falls on deaf ears in Washington, D.C. So don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. You know, if it's about burying it in the state of Nevada, I'm opposed to it. If we want to talk about opportunities, technology, and I've said this before, I will have that discussion because I think the discussion needs to be had. Now, as far as mainstream and Republicans, Mike Pence comes to our luncheons at least once a month back in Washington. There is a great working relationship. Great working relationship with the Senate and with this White House. Great working relationship. I have a great working relationship with all of the cabinet members, with the vice president, and with this president as we move forward. But I just want to reiterate, I will do what's best for the state of Nevada. That's my job. If I don't like a policy that's coming out of the White House, I'm not going to support it simply because he happens to be a Republican president. I will support it because it's good for the state of Nevada. That's why I'm here. That's why you put me there, is to make sure that Nevada is better off, and I'll continue to do so.
All right, Mr. Senator. I'm going to bring you back to the item about the, there's two in front of you, by the way, so just take your turn. The past chairman of the Republican Party for Washoe County during the last general election, we got like no support from Senator Heck and Senator Heck's campaign. And you touched on the fact that Washoe County is, like everybody knows, a swing county and a swing state. You know, that Washoe County is never going to go anywhere if the candidates don't back the county party. We're the nuts and bolts people in the field.
Right. Let me ask you a question. I've always scratched my head on this one. Why is it constantly asked of the candidates to support the party as opposed to the party supporting the candidates?
No, the party is, the local party does the supporting of the candidates. But we can't take yard signs out we don't have. We can't pass out bumper stickers we don't get. We can't make radio and TV spots without funding.
But I don't want you to do radio and TV spots. What I want you to do is register voters and get them out to vote. That's how the Republican Party wins.
Our registration's been ongoing for 4 years.
I know, but I'm not criticizing
you can't
whatever process you have.
You can't get them into the office, and you can't get them to Cinco de Mayo to register, or all these other places where we take a registration forms.
I know how tough it is.
Unless they know about it.
Right. Now, what if I understand? I want to be very clear. What you're asking is for me to give the party money. Yeah, of course. Now, I'm restricted. Joe Heck was restricted. He's restricted to give money to the party. I would love to write a check for each county party to the state party. I'd love to do that, but I'm restricted from doing that with the rules of the United States Senate. The fact that I sit on the banking committee. Back in Washington, D.C. The rules do not allow me to write checks to local parties. Does not allow me to do that. So that's why I don't think it was Joe Heck's fault. He was probably restricted in the support that he could have given.
He wasn't restricted on bringing 1,000 campaign signs into my office, so I could have distributed them.
You're right. No. And that campaign should have done that. All I'm just telling you that there's usually two sides to this particular story. And in this case, it's tough for us to do that.
Ashley has got to take the senator to another event. We're going to have this gentleman's, I know there's a lot of people have questions. You can sit and talk to Michael. We're going to do a drawing.
You guys have been great.
One more question.
All right.
One more question.
Senator Heller, thank you. Thank you for being here.
bet.
And I called your office and I received a personal letter from you. Thank you for that as well.
You're welcome.
The other thing, having been a leader in many organizations, I appreciate doing what's right. Many times you're pulled to do the easy thing and it's not always the right thing. My question to you is, I see that Republicans in Washington, D.C. are getting beat up because you can't get together. You can't, there's no support of each other per se. What is it that's being done to bring the Republicans in Washington, D.C. together so that you can get the things done that are right for our country and for everyone. So thank you very much for that.
All right. So what are we doing? What are we doing? Well, I'm guessing that most of you here in this room think we ought to be doing more. Yeah. Have I lost that? Yeah. That is a pretty clear message that I've gotten from the room today, and I agree with you. I agree with you. We need to be doing more. As I just mentioned, the White House is very active. White House is very active. Pence, as I said, has come over. Pence has sat in the chair. For example, when DeVos was made the education secretary, he sat in the chair because we needed the vice president's vote. He came over when Gorsuch was voted to the Supreme Court. So we've had the vice president over there. We are getting together and having great discussions about how to move forward. Yeah, we had a big hiccup on healthcare. That was a big hiccup. And I think there are probably a lot of people here in this room that may have been a little disappointed that we didn't get that first accomplishment. But frankly, I think we were wrong. We were wrong going after healthcare first. We got to find a bipartisan issue. Taxation and infrastructure is a bipartisan issue. If you just did taxation, all the Republicans would vote for it because it would lower rates. It would lower rates, and we're all for less taxes. But Democrats want infrastructure. They want the infrastructure package. We bring both sides together. We have an accomplishment, something good for the country. Then we go and tackle some of the harder issues. And that's what our leadership is discussing now. That's what we talk about at lunch when Pence comes into the office.
But Republicans seem to be fighting Republicans.
Well, they do. They do.
We're a stubborn crowd.
Yeah, let me make this observation. If you look at what's going on in social media today, look at what's going on in social media today. Anytime a Republican pokes its head up, the negative impacts of that are just been amazing. I mean, they are organized on the other side. Republicans, on the other hand, have exactly what they've been asking and fighting for the last 10 years. And that's a Republican majority in the House, Republican majority of the Senate, and the White House. They have it. They now have it. Problem is everybody's gotten off social media. You're very satisfied. You all went back to work, which is exactly what you should do. But the Republicans are just getting creamed out there right now because we don't feel any support from the grassroots effort. Don't feel the support. I go to a town hall meeting and there's 600 people, and I'll tell you, there were 250 people outside that couldn't get in. Yeah, there were 250 more people that wanted to get in. And it was all, with few exceptions, of the 500 to 600 people that were in the room, probably 100 Republicans there, and they were all supportive, and I was appreciative that they were all there. But that just goes to tell you how difficult the atmosphere is today, and it always is that way. I mean, Tea Party came about because of Obama, and they were on social media, and they pounded, and they pounded, and they pounded, and look where we are today. Bottom line is this: we have to produce.
Absolutely.
You sent us there. We have to produce. We have to produce on tax reform.
But we have to do something to support you too. I was there yesterday. My wife and I, we felt like we were the only 6 Republicans.
I know.
And
I know.
when we didn't, 7, excuse me.
But
I wasn't there.
We need more Republican involvement.
Absolutely.
We really do. Because if you're going to push our agenda, we need to feel it. We really do need to feel it. And again, we can do better. We will do better too.
Dean,
I'll take
I have
one
a
more.
favor.
I'll take one more.
She wants to just say something briefly, and then we're going to be asking you to pick the winning 50-50 ticket. I had one comment. United, we win. If not, we lose. It's very simple. You better come together, or you're going to get another Kathleen Mastro in there.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm Maria Davis. I am a Republican, and I was the 7th one there yesterday at the town hall meeting. So I just want to thank you so much for taking everything that you did yesterday and for still choosing to be a public servant. But I want to ask you to please don't forget that that is what you are, a public servant. We know that we have so many people lobbying for you to say yes to whatever they want you to say yes. So please don't forget what it is that you went into office for, your principles. And with that in mind, I like to remind you to please keep in mind the kids. When you think about the healthcare bill, please keep in mind the kids. Think of it as an investment. If we have healthy kids, if we have kids that get proper care and preventive care, we will have healthy citizens that one day will make America great again. So thank you so much. And question, do you know what language access is? Language access.
Language access.
Yes. Okay, can we talk about that later? Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. And also, one thing, we need to work together. I am like one of very few minorities in this room, and we're here to stay. I'm Hispanic. I'm from a small village in northern Mexico, and I don't know how to bring us together. There was an effort last time to bring some of the Latinos, and it didn't turn out that great, but I know that we're better than that. It's called respect. If we just respect each other, we have the same values, We want to do better for our kids, and we want to do better for this country. So I don't know, ideas, well, the Latino community is growing, and we are conservative, so please, thank you. Thank you so much, of course. Thank you. Okay.
By the way, last month, the men's club reached out, and we had an awful lot of the Latin Chamber of Commerce. A lot of the Latin Chamber of Commerce here, we reached out, and the GOP now is making an effort. No,
No, you're supposed to read it. But I do like to preface my always a little quick thing, sir. I wanted to say thank you for enduring what you endured yesterday. And after personally witnessing it, I'm going to look forward to running the world team next time to get you reelected.
Thank you. All right, here's the number. It's not my fault, all right? It's not my fault. 204-6141. 204-6141.
We have a winner in the back.
All right, very good.
All right. And just so you all know, he won $55.
I wanted to thank Senator Heller for attending the meeting. And Marion Bond is in the back. She has that signature book to be sent off to Trump. And the other thing is the Latin Chamber is the last Tuesday, I think it's next week, or it's the last Tuesday of the month here at 7:30 in the morning. And they don't feed you breakfast, just goodies. They're even cheaper than I am. Anyway, thank you. The next meeting is May 18th, and it's a fundraiser for the Jim Owens Foundation. Thank you for coming. We'll do some pictures.
Don't leave without signing the journal. We're sending signatures to President Trump here at this back table. So please. Be sure to stop to sign the signature book. Did you folks sign? Oh, yeah. This is going to President Trump. Just sign your name and please line up to sign this book.
Thank you.
Ashley.
Please line up to sign the book before you leave. Thank you. Thank you so much. Karen, you watch out after this. I'm going to catch people as they go out. Yeah, just skip a line. You can write a brief message, whatever. Thank you so much. Thank you.